Well, good to have you here at the World War I Museum. This is a historic place in Kansas City. I want to introduce you to a good friend of mine for his opening remarks right now. You're going to meet the members of our panel, the other congressional members. This is a bipartisan committee that's here to help promote small business, to listen to your concerns, and to hopefully learn and grow from that. Chairman Roger Williams is a legend on Capitol Hill, a legend in Texas, and he was actually spent his first 7 years here in Kansas City. He's going to talk about that a little bit. His childhood home is over in Prairie Village, and his dad was a car dealer here in Kansas City, and we're very pleased to be here under his leadership and the great committee staff that has put this together. Ladies and gentlemen, Chairman Roger Williams.
Thank you very much, and I'm going to spend 30 seconds on my Kansas City life real quick. So I'm glad to be here in Kansas City. So we moved from Kansas City to Fort Worth, Texas when I was 8. But in between that time, I lived at 78th and Knoll. My phone number was Niagara 22725. And I was the first bat boy for the Kansas City Athletics when they came here in '55 when they came from Philadelphia, you remember? And the first commercial was made was me jumping in the arms of Mayor Roe Bartle and him reminding everybody to come out and watch the A's play. And I went to Prairie Village Presbyterian Church. So that's kind of my world in Kansas City. And I'm going to come back and I want to go see that house I grew up in because I remember my dad said he paid $8,000 for it. I want to see what it's worth now. So anyway, but I want to thank you, Congressman, for putting this group together. I want to thank you for your leadership in Washington and for the people you represent. It's a good team. And I want to thank all of you for being here today, and I want to thank you for the panelists for taking the time to speak with a group of members in the committee on small business. And I do chair the committee, and I'm proud to. And this was touched on, but it's a bigger deal than you think. But we actually can get some things done in Washington. And this committee is a bipartisan committee, as evidence of the members we have here. We have both Republicans and Democrats. We get a lot done, and I'm proud of that. I think it's important. I think that speaks what life is about and should be about. So we're just getting started with the committee's nationwide tour. This is a tour we're going all over the country, speaking to groups like yours and taking politics and taking small business to America, taking it to small business owners rather than you having to come see us. I think it's important, and we're going all over the country. And the conversation will take place across several of our members' districts are incredibly important. We want to hear what all of you have to say when we get a glimpse of the people and the communities our colleagues serve. We work better together and become better lawmakers. And all of you know this, but 99% of the businesses in America are small businesses, just like all of ours. 75% of the workforce, 75% of the payroll are generated by members, right? I mean, we're working, we're getting it done. That's why this is important. And over the past year, this committee's been working to lower costs for Main Street by reducing red tape and restoring guardrails at the SBA. We have oversight of the SBA, the Small Business Administration, and it's doing great. I mean, we've seen huge growth. We're seeing a lot of regulations released. We even raised the limit the other day from $5 million to $10 million for small businesses to begin a business, expand their business. We're becoming very Main Street friendly, and the SBA is doing a great job. And when I talk about bipartisanship, we've passed 30 bipartisan bills out of the House, 30, to make the federal government work more efficiently for our small businesses nationwide and to make sure that we compete against each other and not compete against the federal government. We don't need to be doing that. And we're trying to make that happen. And this Kansas City, like my district in Texas, if you know where Fort Worth is, as I represent Fort Worth and Arlington, go west and so forth, and we get to a point in my district there's more cows than people. But I carried that vote almost by 70% last time. So anyway, as Kansas City is, my district in Texas looks toward an existing summer as a host city for the World Cup. Y'all are going to be in that. We're going to be the same thing in my district. And I'm interested to hear how small businesses in Kansas City, we all are, will get a seat at the table as part of the local economy. It's going to trickle down to everything you do here. And as the chamber, I'm sure you're ready for all that. And not only that, but I'm eager to hear about thoughts you have on how we can grow Main Street success by developing the workforce in your industries, and all our industries are different. So I want to thank you again for letting us have this conversation, come to Kansas City, and for hosting us. I now return it over to my good friend, Congressman Alford.
Well, thank you, Chairman Williams. And for those who have a mic in front of them, if you will go ahead and push the button forward, make sure the microphone is on so everyone can hear you. We do have some news media here today. Thank you for your interest in coming to this bipartisan roundtable. Thank you, Chairman Williams. I did not expect to be on the Small Business Committee. And when I first got to Washington, I wanted to be on the Armed Services Committee and Agriculture. My predecessor, Vicki Hartzer, was on that. But I was recruited heavily by two people, Kevin McCarthy and Chairman Williams. He said, if you get on the Small Business Committee, you will be able to have impact and influence to all parts of your district because, as the chairman said, America is made up of small businesses. It is a fabric of America, and it always has been. And Kansas City was built around small business. You think about Francois Choteau, who came here in the Western expansion to trap fur on the Missouri River, a small business. You think about Harry S. Truman, who set up a haberdashery shop not too far from here, Chairman, in downtown Kansas City. And many of you in this room, many of on our panel today who are small business leaders in our community helping make a difference is the backbone of our local economy and the heartbeat, really, of our communities. Today's roundtable is an opportunity for us here to listen, and we're here to hear directly from you and you in the audience as well about what is working, what is not working, and how we can affect positive change in Washington, D.C., and be a better partner. As moderator, my goal is very simple, to have an honest and productive discussion about the challenges facing small businesses and the opportunities ahead. We're all here today to hear from these small business owners and community leaders about how Main Street, and that is our focus under the leadership of Chairman Williams, Main Street America, and how it's fueling affordability in our country. And folks, these are not abstract policies and debates. They affect whether a business can expand, hire workers, invest in new technology, or even keep its doors open and running. We're also here at a pivotal moment for Kansas City. The upcoming World Cup represents a once-in-a-generation opportunity to showcase our region on the global stage and drive economic growth for local businesses. Major international events like this can create lasting benefits, but only if small businesses are prepared to capitalize on the influx of visitors and new investments. That's why partnerships between local leaders, Chamber of Commerce, entrepreneurs, and federal policymakers are so very important, and we recognize that on the Small Business Committee. Another issue I hear about constantly across Missouri's 4th Congressional District is the need for a strong, reliable, skilled workforce. We have a shortage of workforce in America. I was just talking with Steve Dunn of J.E. Dunn this morning. Nationwide, they are short 800 workers to build the infrastructure, the projects, the buildings that are going to help America succeed. We've got to address this issue. And I know Jeff Martin has some ideas on that we've talked about that we're going to expand on here today. Another issue I hear about constantly is the need for capital and counseling in small businesses. And we are doing that through the Small Business Development Centers, the SBA, and we have several bills that have passed out of the House to help veterans, to help small businesses use AI, artificial intelligence, to their advantage, and how Small Business Administration is helping. But another issue is the overregulation that's become complex. It's sucking up capital. It just becomes too difficult to access for many small businesses because they're the ones who feel it first. So today is about identifying practical solutions, and your insight will help guide our work in Washington as we pursue policies that encourage investment, that reduce unnecessary burdens, and that creates an environment for success where small businesses can thrive. Before we begin our introductions, I want to thank each of you again for taking your time to be here, for the work that you do each and every day to strengthen our economy, to strengthen our region. And I really look forward to talking about Main Street today. Let's go down now, and I want each member here, again, this is a bipartisan committee here today in this round table to introduce themselves, a little bit about their district. And we'll start with my friend Gil Cisneros.
Well, thank you there, Mark, and I want to thank the chairman for inviting me and including me on this trip. I am Gil Cisneros. I represent California's 31st Congressional District in Los Angeles County. And really, our business is, our district, my district, is really an urban district, but made up of businesses and residential communities with, as I always say, hardworking Americans who are doing the daily work for the country. We have a growing industry of technology that is, you always hear about up north, the valley up there, but in the San Gabriel Valley where I am, technology is including to grow there with innovation and technology, and we are continuing what we need to foster those small businesses that are getting into those industries. I also, as well as serving on the Small Business Committee, I serve on the Armed Services Committee, and believe it or not, there is a lot of cross-contamination, as I like to say, right, in those two committees, because there are, especially in my district, there are a number of defense contractors that are small businesses that rely on, legislation, as the SBICs and other things that help promote them and get them started so that they can do that defense work. But first time in Kansas City, happy to be here today and happy to meet so many great folks, and looking forward to hearing from our panelists and maybe some of the audience as well as to to kind of find out what issues you're dealing with here and see how they relate to the same issues that are going on in my district. So thank you for having me.
Thank you. I'm Congressman Troy Downing from the great state of Montana, and we have two districts in Montana, and we've got a western district, which is a strip, and I'm everything else. So I get all the farmers and ranchers and coal miners and natural resources, but it's a great state. If you ever want to come visit, let me know. I'll show you all the secret spots. Well, I want to start out with one thing. I'm obviously bookended by a couple of my friends and colleagues from the other side of the aisle, and they're not holding me hostage. Well, everybody here understands that small businesses grow the economy, create jobs, and that's not a partisan issue. And so I'm really glad that we have colleagues that we can work together on finding solutions so that small businesses can thrive. Myself, my wife and I, we're involved in a couple of small businesses ourselves. We take perfectly good Montana malted barley and sweet corn and turn it into bourbon. So I've got a kindred spirit over here on the panel. I've also got a small manufacturing company that does, we make athletic wear, so another all made in America, American source materials. So I understand, the difficulties in finding access to capital, finding employees. We do a lot of exporting, of navigating that in our apparel. So I understand these problems, and I'll say one of the biggest issues is access to capital. And so a lot of the things that we're looking at with the reforms in the SBA and some other programs is how do we make it easier for small business to be able to finance what they're doing so that they can grow the economy, so that they can create jobs, so that they can be everything that they are all right now, so that they don't have these artificial barriers on being able to grow. I mean, they're incredibly important. In my state of Montana, the vast majority of our economy and our jobs are small businesses, more than anything else. And so it's very important to me. I really look forward to hearing the stories, the issues, the concerns from our panelists. We've got a pretty broad selection there, so I'm sure there's going to be a lot of good discussion here. And really, we're here to, be a resource. How can we be helpful? Let's make sure we're sharing those ideas on how we can promote small businesses that are helping in every one of our states, every one of our communities. So happy to be here.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Derek Tran. I represent California's 45th District. First and foremost, let me thank our chairman for putting this together, and leading the charge for us is Congressman Alfred. Thank you so much for allowing me to participate in this. Before coming to Congress, had my own small solo law firm with some staff, and currently my wife still runs our brick and mortar pharmacy shop in Anaheim, California. So, getting on the Small Business Committee was one of my priorities. I deeply want to make sure that I help entrepreneurs who want to start their business, and I agree with my colleagues here. Access to capital is one of the greatest challenges we have But I see my job as being here, listening to folks across America, finding out from them what are smart policies we can do in the federal side to make sure you can succeed. So very much looking forward to talking to all of you panelists, and thank you for having me in your beautiful city.
Hafade, good morning, everybody. First, let me just thank the chairman and Congressman Alford for the privilege and honor of joining the panel today. This is my first time in Kansas City. I'm very excited. I'm from the Commonwealth of the Northern Mariana Islands, and for those of you who have never heard of the Mariana Islands, it's where the Enola Gay took off on that fateful morning, and I think it gives me the chills a little bit to be here and to be in the museum, given our historical ties with these crazy events in the world, right? In the Marianas, one of our biggest issue is labor shortage, and unlike the United States of the states here, where folks can travel from one state to the other, we are an island in the middle of the Pacific Ocean, and so one of the things that we've come to realize is that we can't train ourselves out of a labor or a workforce shortage. And I'm very interested in listening to the panelists share some of ideas as to how we can begin tackling that issue. I know that the Small Business Committee has been working hard to figure out different opportunities, whether it be connecting our vets to small businesses, and in the VA committee as well, how do we improve, for example, the TAP program to ensure that when our service members come out of the military service, that they have the opportunity to go right into private industry. And so I'm very excited to be a part of the conversation and to listen to the subject matter experts such as yourself, and to get a little bit of insight as to how we can address these issues. So thank you very much for the opportunity to be here.
Well, thank you. I'm last on the panel. I'm Derek Schmidt. I have the privilege of representing the 2nd District in Kansas, and so I'm home. If you just cross the river and go to the roughly north half of Wyandotte County, I have more or less everything north of I-70 in Wyandotte County and then on up to Leavenworth. So the metro is very much part of the area we love and are responsible for. I'm proud to be part of the region's delegation along with Congressman Alford. I just want to lend my voice and thank everybody who's out today, thank our panelists, many of whom go back a ways, thank all of our colleagues who have come from around the country to be here, and particularly you, Mr. Chairman. We're grateful for your leadership on these issues. And only thing I might say that's a little more specific, our friend Congressman Cisneros mentioned the important connection between national defense and supply chains and small businesses. We also serve together on the Armed Services Committee. And one of the things we got done this year, we're bird dogging to see how it's implemented and if it fulfills its purpose, we got enacted into law a provision as part of the National Defense Authorization Act that is intended to make it much easier for small businesses that are not already accustomed to doing business with the Pentagon to access that supply chain and become suppliers. And the whole idea is to broaden out the universe of folks who can participate in that market if they wish, and therefore strengthen America's defense by having more competition and options in the supply. So I want to thank Gil for his helping getting that done. Mr. Chairman, I yield back.
All right, thank you very much, Derek. And Derek and I have gotten to be friends because we take a lot of the same flights to D.C. and back, and a great member on the Small Business Committee. Love working with you, Derek. Let's meet our panelists now. We're going to start with Tracy Whelpe down here from KC 2026. Just say a little bit about your background, what you're doing, and appreciate you being here, Tracy. Thank you.
Yes, thank you for inviting me to be here. It's truly an honor to meet all of the representatives in the committee and the familiar faces on the panel from Kansas City representing the Small Business Network. I am the Director of Regional Impact for KC 2026. That's the nonprofit that was formed specifically to plan and implement the World Cup in Kansas City this coming summer. Perhaps you've heard of it. As Director of Regional Impact, I have a few areas of focus. One is small business readiness that I'm going to be happy to talk about here today, how we framed the opportunity for small business and to identify where the opportunities are and to provide the information and connections to help them pursue those opportunities, and have worked closely with the Chamber, our ESOs, the Small Business Development Centers that are part of the SBA. So they've been incredible partners. The second is community engagement. All around the region, communities have been strategizing how they're going to celebrate, participate, welcome visitors. So our goal is to make sure that we are unified in welcoming them while allowing each community to celebrate their unique personalities and contributions to hosting these global visitors. And then the third is working with our area economic development leaders and also at the state levels to make sure that we're leveraging this opportunity this summer when we have global corporate executives, we have trade ministers, trade delegations coming to Kansas City, and making sure that we have the opportunity to meet with them, to provide them with an incredible experience and really plant the seeds for future development and investment in the Kansas City region and the states of Missouri and Kansas. So thank you for having me here.
Thank you, Tracy. Next up, Mr. Eric Bergrud from the Greater Kansas City Chamber of Commerce.
Thank you, Congressman. As you mentioned earlier, we have a large delegation because we are a bi-state area. Both your district, Congressman Schmidt's district, I actually live in the 6th district, which is Congressman Graves. And so welcome, everybody who's not from this area, welcome to Kansas City. Our chamber has been representing Kansas City businesses since the 1880s. And because we're a bi-state chamber, we focus on growing business both in Missouri and Kansas. In addition to everything that Tracy said, and we're excited about the World coming to Kansas City, not just the business opportunities during the World Cup, but hopefully the new business growth after the World Cup as the world comes to see what Kansas City has to offer. We touch small business in a lot of different ways. We have staff colleagues across the chamber for me who focus on small business growth and development. We have the World Trade Center license for Kansas City, so focused on helping small businesses do export. My team is the public policy team, so we work with our elected officials locally, both states and in Washington, D.C. And we touch in a lot of different areas, including military affairs. And I'm sort of interested in a couple comments, thinking about veterans who build their networks in the military. How do they take that skill set and then apply it as they launch their own, whether it's traditional small businesses or startups? I think there's an opportunity there, and part of the challenge is bringing everybody to the table and coalescing among the multiple skill sets that are available. I'm going to stop there in the interest of time, but again, welcome to Kansas City, the home of Hallmark Cards, which started out of a shoebox and became a global industry. And so we know what's possible when you give somebody an opportunity and hope, and we hope that a lot of small businesses become large businesses too. Thank you.
When you care enough to send the very best, right? And now a new friend of mine, he's got a great business, and every day he gets to say, here's your sign. David Goodson of Impact Sign.
Thank you, Congressman. Honored to be here and to meet all of you today. We are a family-owned custom sign and lighting digital manufacturer. We have a facility located in Sedalia, Missouri, one in Columbia. Our company services about 15 states, 200 cities a year. But we're excited to be here to talk today about some of the issues we face in manufacturing and in field services with labor and regulation. But again, honored to be here today and discuss some of the things we struggle with as a small employer of around 75 people. So look forward to being here. Thank you.
Thank you. Next up is also a friend of mine, Jeff Martin, who owns Martin Underground, a big fiber optic cable company where they lay cable all over Missouri and other parts of the country. And Jeff, take it away.
Thanks, Mark. Yeah, I too am very honored to be here and to have an opportunity to help in any way that I can for small business. Again, my name's Jeff Martin. I am a 30-year serial entrepreneur from Lee Summit, Missouri. I currently own a business called Martin Underground. It is an infrastructure construction business, so we do a lot of digging, We do a lot with the fiber optic industry, electrical, power, sewer, water, gas. So, we tear up a lot of grass and stuff in the area. We see and are affected by a lot of the issues that you guys are talking about here today. There's the huge need for labor, capital. We also have some problems with tort reform. We are a constant target for frivolous lawsuits, and we spend a lot of our day just waking up in the morning. I say a lot of times I'm in a fist fight all day long. So hopefully we can get some good ideas today to help out with some of these things.
Well, thank you. I think that transitions well to Andy Rieger, who also is in fistfights, not because of the alcohol he produces, but some other issues. Andy, let people know a little bit about your product and why you're here today.
My name's Andy Rieger. I restarted an old family business that died in Prohibition, and so we have the J. Rieger & Co. distillery down in the East Bottoms of Kansas City. It's 110,000 square feet now, 70,000 square feet of dedicated production space. The rest is for guest experiences, 4 bars, 4 restaurants. It's in a severely distressed economic census tract. So when we started out, we had the former head of Maker's Mark on our team, the former head of Tanqueray and Smirnoff, able to recruit those individuals to come here with the whole entire idea being create the best quality. Doesn't matter where you are located, as long as you're creating the best quality, you can draw people to whatever it is that you're doing. And so that principle led us to really trying to build something up in that neighborhood. We taught myself how to do development along the way. Former investment banker, retired, was living in Dallas, Texas, originally from Kansas City, currently live 10 blocks from where you grew up, Mr. Chairman. And so have a finance background and understand that side of things. So utilize great programs there. But really for us, there's 3 things that I mentioned as on our preemptive call from this that I think are small business things that are very, very applicable to us because we import a lot for raw materials. We try to export at least. That's one of the biggest topics of conversation that we have. We have hourly labor, we have high dollar salary labor. So we really touch a lot of the facets, and it's allowed us to see a lot of different components from retail, from B2B, B2C, those types of elements. So we have a really good finger on the general economic pulse, we feel, at least. Plaintiff attorney, as the congressman and I have shared beverages over and had many sob stories that I've given him. Tort reform absolutely is something that is slowly eating away at the fabric of the business community. It's being misled, we believe, as business owners, as being pro-employee, but really it is just finding ways to take advantage of the current legal system. Another one is that I'm very passionate about that I believe could be an easy one is export assistance. Our products here in America, yes, we've seen a devaluation of the dollar recently over the last couple of months, but our products are noticeably more expensive than other products around the world. And so our products are better quality in America than other products from around the world. And however, though, people from around the world struggle to start using American products because of that higher cost to begin with. And so if they can get onto it and they can start to see that it flows through because of the better quality, perhaps that's something that long-term it can allow us to have exceptionalism across the world. And then the last one that I'm, again, very passionate about, Representative Schmidt, not sure if you've been to our facility or not, but for those of you that have in the audience, it is truly, when I say exceptional, we focused on quality, but the biggest thing there is we own our facility. And so it is an out-of-market investment for the neighborhood. It's a historical renovation. I say that it's the second most beautiful building in Kansas City behind Union Station, and it draws 200,000 people a year to a neighborhood that people never went to, and like I said, is the most distressed census tract. I believe that stewardship and small business go hand in hand, and too many small businesses don't have the opportunity to own their own building. And if we can create the opportunity for small businesses to be stewards by offering cheap capital for them to own and invest in their own buildings, their buildings could create out-of-market investments for whatever neighborhood they are in, because those small businesses then are locked and married to that neighborhood. And so they're going to be there to see it through for the next 10, 20, 30 years versus a developer who is just looking for a 3 to 5 year return and a flip and a tenant. And so those are 2 things that typically in finance school they don't tell you if you own a business. Don't also own your own real estate, because those are different. I tend to disagree because I believe they go hand in hand and they create security long-term for the small business community.
Andy, thank you so much. Last but not least, Will Reuter with the Home Builders Association here, another good friend of mine. I some of you may know I used to be in the real estate business in addition to being on television, and I really have a heart for real estate and restoring the American dream. We have kind of lost that with a young generation. We have a lot of issues in our housing supply, affordability, you name it, and Will has been very instrumental in helping me educate me about some of the issues facing the home builders here and across America. Will.
Thank you very much, Congressman Alford and Chairman Williams and members of the committee for being able to participate with you today. As the head of the local home builders association here in Kansas City, we represent about 600 member companies spread across Kansas and Missouri, about 30 counties total within the broader Kansas City MSA. And ours is an industry here locally that is dominated by small business participation. Up until very recently, Kansas City was the largest residential construction market in the country that was not represented within it by a top 50 nationally ranked builder in terms of volume. So the housing production within Kansas City is largely done by people who live in Kansas City. The investment stays here, the income stays here, and gets distributed out through the committee or through the community. And so as we look at how to participate in a modern housing environment with modern housing needs and contemporary household incomes, how do we marry all of those to continue to produce the level of housing that is going to be able to satisfy the intense demand that exists within a growing area like Kansas City? Ours is a metropolitan area that typically creates between 8,000 and 9,000 new households every year. Our single family production, which is statistically the most likely housing product to be owned by the people occupying it, is right around 4,000 new starts per year. So if our community continues to grow, and which we anticipate by every metric it will continue to do so, then so must our housing demand and our supply to meet that demand. Access to capital, certainly, access to a workforce, and then being able to house that workforce that we create. It does no good to create a job if there is not an ability to participate in the community as a homeowner within it. So ours is a full 360 focus on economic development, housing production, not only for our future workforce and our current workforce that is employed by the industry, but also for the broader small business community that calls Kansas City home. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Will. Thank you all of our panelists for being here. Let's jump right into it. We're going to cover 8 topics this morning. We're going to kind of fly through these. This is not an exhaustive approach. This is kind of like an opening discussion of some of these and to give us some points that we can go back to D.C. really and work on some of these issues. We're going to talk about access to capital, World Cup tourism, workforce development, deregulation, housing, artificial intelligence, taxes, and we'll end on veterans issues and small business related issues when it comes to veterans. Let's start with access to capital. It's consistently one of the top concerns that we hear from small business owners across Missouri. And I want to start by understanding what barriers that you were seeing on the ground. Let's start with you, Will. What barriers are home builders facing when trying to secure financing, and how is that impacting housing supply?
So housing has become such a capital-intensive process. Most of the lending done for a local housing market, because we can have a national conversation about housing, but when you really drill down into it, it's very much a local and a regional conversation. And in fact, there are sub-markets to local housing markets. And so access to conventional financing through depository institutions has continued to taper off through the years because of the amount of capital required and the patience for that capital required in order to get these long-term projects to the finish line. So, you know, historically, if you were able to find a piece of ground and get dirt moving within 30 days, that was, you know, a pretty reasonable expectation. Today, you're looking at 2 years before you're actually able to get on site and be able to start making housing happen. So you've got 2 years of capital being tied up from either a depository institution or a set of investors, wherever that capital is coming from, and it's got to sit and wait. And markets change very quickly. And if that capital is tied up on a project that is taking longer to get going and ultimately get to the outcome, then that capital is going to find somewhere else to be deployed. and that capital is no longer going to be there for the next project. So we really need a quick deployment of capital with a prioritization for making housing production more of a capital attractive position to be in.
Jeff, I know you've talked about the accessibility of loans. What is getting in the way today for small business owners for loan accessibility? Has it improved or worsened?
If it's improved or lessened, it's about the same. I mean, one of the problems I've got, and we're a profitable business and a very capital-intensive business, the construction industry. You know, if you know how that works, we are always fronting the money on the next project, essentially, through payroll, through stuff like that. A lot of our customers, and this is kind of indicative to the construction industry, will also string you out on payments. Nobody wants to pay in 14 days or 2 weeks anymore, or a month, or whatever. I mean, literally this morning, you know, when I say I'm in a fist fight, you know, I woke up, you know, I'm looking at my receivables, what's coming in today, got to make payroll today, you know, I'm pushing my people in there, okay, get on the phone, so-and-so hasn't paid me for 90 days, this and that, the whole bit. So, you know, that's one of the root causes of why you need capital and some things. What I don't understand, anytime, you know, and I've borrowed a bunch of money over the years here and there and done some things, it is just so difficult to go to the banks and borrow money if, you know, they're not going to lend on anything unless, you know, if I want to borrow $100,000, I better have a $100,000 asset sitting somewhere, or I better have a $100,000 set in the bank before they're going to give you anything. They're not going to lend on, you know, hey, I got this new project that I just got, and I'm going to need some startup capital, because he's right. It takes 60 to 90 days before you can sometimes even get a bill out the door to somebody, and then they're taking another 60 or 90 days to pay you. So, you know, all of a sudden, you're fronting all this stuff, and, you know, cash flow becomes a crunch. When you get in a cash flow crunch, small businesses start doing goofy things that cost them a lot of money, so they don't operate properly. So it gets stressful and things like that. So, you know, we just need the banks or somebody to make it a, you know, I don't want them doing stupid loans and things like that, but, you know, I've had a relationship with my same bank for 20 years. They know me. They've seen the good, the bad, when things are up and down. I've been there. I've got through problems. I've done well. But if I want to borrow money from them, I better have something to back that up. They're just not going to come in, you know. Construction industry right now, the first quarter, typically in the Midwest, a lot of construction companies don't make money. It's not because we don't have the work or we don't have the people to do it. You just can't get to it because of Mother Nature. Well, the bills don't quit coming. You know, the lights got to stay on. So, you know, we just need to find a way to where they'll take a little more risk. They want no risk anymore. So, you know, that's from what I've seen.
Eric, are you seeing this across the board from the chamber perspective?
Yeah, all these stories, totally true. And in fact, if the top 4 things we hear from our members and our constituents, access to capital is probably number 1. And it's on multiple levels. It's somebody who just has an idea and needs a microloan. It's also somebody who has a startup and needs access to venture capital. This is not Silicon Valley. So one of the things that Kansas City organizations have been trying to focus on is how do you connect the dots? How do you help the startup community with capital that they can't get from traditional sources? But I would think about this as multi-layered. It's not just a big project. Sometimes it's just somebody who wants to start a food truck and turn that food truck into a restaurant and turn that restaurant into a chain of restaurants. But how do they get that first opportunity?
Very good point. Chairman Williams, can you talk about the Made in America Manufacturing Act and how that is changing the access to capital?
Well, I can. Let me say this.
It's on.
Is it on? Oh, you can hear me. I'm in the car business. Everything you're saying, I'm relating to. You're talking about a cable. I'm talking about an automobile. It's been hard for the banks, and we're reducing some regulations too that will enable them to create a little more risk, create access to capital, meet the payroll, et cetera. But I think you know, through the SBA too, the SBA's got a lot more aggressive. As I say, we've gone from 5 million to 8 to 10 million in loan availability, which is a big deal because now you can get in business, stay in business, increase your business, and that sort of thing. And that develops better relationships with the banks because, you know, there's participation between the two. The banks feel a little bit more comfortable with the SBA. I hope that we got that personality going now as we continue to grow. But Made in America Act is important. It allows us to make things in America, get credit for it, and so forth. We're on the right track. But the access to capital is a huge deal, whether you're in your business or my business. Of course, it doesn't help anybody to hear that unless it was talking about you. But, you know, we had a lot of community banks, which most of us deal with. We're getting squeezed pretty hard. They were trying to find relationships with larger banks to join together and so forth. We're not seeing that much now. The risk and reward thing has begun to be something where you can get some risk, but hey, there's reward out there and so forth. So what you're describing is good. I can't speak for every bank, but like I say, I'm in the car business. I compete, you compete. We want to get to where the banks are competing against each other. They're competing for your service, competing for your business. And I think we're going to get there because bankers seem to be pretty excited about fewer regulations than they've had in the past and have to deal with. Now they can make that loan for that payroll that you need on Friday morning when you got to get it out Friday afternoon. So I think we're heading in the right direction.
I want to get a quick word from Kimberly King-Hines from Northern Mariana Islands, and thank you for being here. Fascinating member of Congress. She lives on an island that's, how many people are on Northern Mariana?
We are hovering a little bit under 40,000.
40,000. So it's a total, but we face some of the same issues. We're talking about rural health care. We're not really touching on that today, but some of the same concerns that we have here on the mainland that you have in the Northern Mariana Islands. Just this last November, our committee passed the Northern Mariana Islands Small Business Access Act, your bill. Can you speak about how this impacts your constituents?
Well, there was a technical, the law didn't explicitly include the CNMI, and so small businesses in the Marianas did not have access to small business loan. If this bill should pass and be signed into law, you know, this would give small businesses some type of relief to be able to do basic things like upgrading equipment or, you know, sprucing up the storefront or just making very much necessary repairs to be able to keep their business going, right? And so I'm really grateful for the bipartisan support that we've received to be able to get that put on the floor and now head to the Senate. And hopefully the Senate gets its act together and passes that law so that small businesses in my community, especially during this time when we are experiencing an economic downturn where folks are just leaving in droves because there are no opportunities. And so that's the benefit.
Let's turn now to our second topic, World Cup tourism and community impact. With the World Cup approaching, less than 6 months away now, Kansas City really has a once-in-a-generational opportunity to showcase what we have to build small businesses, to retain those small businesses. And Tracy, I want to start with you. How is KC 2026 making sure that small businesses are positioned to benefit from the influx of all the visitors that we're going to have?
Thank you. Yes, we started back in about a year ago, February, and I want to recognize that we pulled together a group of small business champions across the region because we wanted them to tell us what the best way was to go about doing this. So thanks to a grant from the Kauffman Foundation, we were able to get a former regional director with the SBA as part of our team to consult with us on this. We've worked with the SBDCs, the Chamber, SCORE, ESOs, CDFIs, and then local government agencies at the state and the city level. And what they advised us to do was, first of all, to frame this opportunity very clearly for businesses. So we started and said, you know, everybody, where are the contracts? So we worked early with FIFA to understand what their contracts would be, and we understood from them that they were going to be in the event production disciplines because FIFA is focused on the stadium matches. So when we were able to say and they said, we are looking for people that are experienced with this, that have the ability to scale, and to your point about payment terms, that have the financial resources to basically live with extended payment terms. So then we said, so we will support that. We submit business interest forms to FIFA so that they could do their vetting for their contracts to identify businesses. We told them we wanted to keep them local. The metro, both sides of the state lines, and then the states of Kansas and Missouri to go where they needed to go to identify them. So then we said, now let's pivot to the visitors. 650,000 visitors are estimated. They're going to need products and services, so let's focus the rest and really in those visitor-facing industries on that opportunity, understanding this customer base, and let's kind of build a program around that. We did that called the KC Game Plan, and we have, focused on a few things. Again, very clear-eyed counsel on the framing of the opportunity, and then bringing training information to them and the topics they told us through surveys that they needed information. So first and foremost, it was help us understand who these visitors are, provide us with some cultural insights if they're international, help us understand where they're coming from. I think that the number one problem some businesses have had is contextualizing 650,000 visitors. When, where, in my neighborhood, not in my neighborhood. So we are finishing up a data modeling tool that will allow a business to enter address, go to a hexagon on a map, and see what the relative change is for foot traffic, trips in that area. Is it 10%, 15%? Recognizing not everybody is going to see the same opportunity, but where we can, how can we provide information that allows you to make smart planning decisions? And then it was information, digital marketing support, cybersecurity are the things I need to be aware of. We know that events like this can sometimes attract bad actors. How do we protect ourselves? As well as loan readiness. So we've worked with the CDFIs and the chamber. We've hosted one. We have a couple more planned to help small businesses get their loan applications ready, helping them understand why it's important to submit a complete loan application and build a relationship with that loan provider. We expect that there will be kind of an influx of loan applications in the next couple of months. And so also working with the lenders to help them anticipate that influx. And so it's really through a lot of information, playbooks. We have a digital hub trying to roll out as much information as we can. We're working with the embassies and the consulates, wrapping up profiles on each of the nations that'll be here and what the travel behaviors are of those folks, getting a very intimate view of the Argentinian fans, spending the last couple of days with the general consul from Chicago, who's going to be responsible for delivering consular services. And so I think we are also seeing that there's going to need to be a push on education for small businesses that are going to be interacting and helping them understand where they go, where they direct visitors when they may need those consular services. So it's really, training tools, information, making the information accessible to businesses in Missouri and Kansas through in-person events, online, on demand, trying to meet them where they are, putting as much information as we can out there.
I saw a report on Fox 4, my former station, last night about Argentina and some of the cultural differences. They stay up a lot later and eat a lot later. So some of
Yes.
these restaurants are going to have to stay open later, and just educating people about the opportunities that await them from these different countries coming here. Gil Cisneros and Derek Tran are both from California.
Yes.
World Cup is coming there as well, and Gil has a question for you.
Yeah, we also have the Olympics coming
Yes,
in
you do.
28, and there's, the big city of Los Angeles gets a lot of the attention. which I don't represent any part of that city. I represent parts of LA County. But we are going to have 5 Olympic venues in my district coming up in 2028. But I'm interested to hear just your thoughts, right? You said there's not only going to be the teams, there are going to be thousands of fans that are going to be coming with them, groups that travel together. How are you organizing to ensure that these groups coming, right? Hey, we need lodging, we need restaurants. How do you hook us up with the various things that are in need? You know, the teams are going to need certain things from local businesses. These fans are going to need, you know, traveling as a group, things from local business. How are you gathering these resources together and working with the businesses and these fans coming to help them connect so that when somebody comes to the chamber or to yourself, right, to saying like, hey, we're going to need a restaurant where we can eat, and we got like 1,000 people that are coming. You know, what resources can you provide us in order to help that happen?
Yeah, so I would answer a great question like that to say first it's segmenting who these audiences are. So, you know, in traveling again with the general counsel over the past couple of days, I can say they see the international audience as being the VVIPs, the president of Argentina, the minister of foreign affairs, the ambassador, and that has, you know, FIFA really kind of holds their hand through this and all the security detail. And then you have the business person, that corporate executive who wants to be treated special. So we're able to, when they contact the consulate, we work with Visit KC, and we're able to guide them there for lodging. And then we aim to direct them to the KC House, which is a business exchange platform that I talked about earlier. So we can entertain them there when they're here match day -1 and leaving the day after match day, and make sure they're making connections with the business community and civic community while they're here. For those fans, we are, I'd say that the primary vehicle we see for the fans themselves is FIFA has an official app. So your ticket comes in that app, and we have, you know, stood up the host city app portion of that and really built it out much more robustly than maybe FIFA had offered. So that becomes the digital journey planner when they're here for exploring our entire region. So they can see businesses, filter businesses, attractions, itineraries, side trips. We really want to drive that economic impact across the region to the different business districts and communities, and that app will be one primary vehicle for doing that. The second is, unlike LA and many of our big cities, we do not have public transportation infrastructure that is really geared towards tourism. So we have had to stand up a tournament time transportation system, bringing in 215 motor coaches, and using, you know, FIFA Fan Festival, which will be right here on the lawn, as the hub of that system, providing match day service to the stadium, but every day of the tournament, having 15 spots around the region where residents can come in and experience FIFA Fan Fest and all the activities going on here, but visitors can use that to have direct bus service, air-conditioned, comfy, no stops in between to get out to 15 different points. One being out at the Legends, where we now know that Argentina will be base camped, and there are a lot of attractions, shopping, restaurants out there, hotels. So it's really a combination of all of these different assets, and then communicating to them through primarily digital mechanisms that we know that they'll use, gearing up on WhatsApp for international visitors. So it really does get into understanding who that audience is, and then finding the right channels to meet their needs.
Well, with 600,000 people coming to the region, I hope some of them will end up down at Rieger in the East Bottoms. And Andy, I want to ask you, that's inevitably going to happen. They're going to taste your great products. They're going to want to have it back in their home countries. How are these global events helping you and other small businesses build international relationships? And you talked about some of the challenges with exports. Let's dive into that a little bit deeper.
Well, one of the things that I think is really important on the World Cup specifically is we all get really bogged down on just the momentary impact. And it's not the momentary impact that's the real lasting impact. Yes, it's an influx of capital that's coming into everyone's market that's hosting these individuals, but it's the long-term residual effect of businesses coming to Kansas City, and again, we're talking about Kansas City because we're here right now, that say, wow, what a fantastic city this is because the quality has risen. And we are promoting the quality of Kansas City, and they say this is a fantastic community to open our next office, whether that be a German company, whether that be an Austrian company, whether that be an Argentinian company. It doesn't matter what that is, but this is really our opportunity to create that lasting impact, not just let small businesses have a really good month and then call it a day and pack up and move on to the next thing. So that's something that we're highly focused on, and so you sort of hit the nail on the head, Congressman, just on how do you take it to the next step? How do you evolve it so that it is not just a bunch of people wanting to come down and experience something that the Kentucky distilleries send their architects to come see when they're redoing theirs for how do you really have exceptionalism with a guest experience? And so when we talk about exports and hitting on what I mentioned earlier at the very beginning, what we really do see is that people, when they try our products, when they see our brand, they recognize the quality aspects. But there's really two competitors that small businesses have, and specifically the distillation community. And one of those is foreign companies that just make cheap products, and a lot of times cheap always wins. But if you can compete with cheap by offering them an incentive to begin with, maybe something to the tune of an assistance from the federal government of saying, we'll pay for X percentage of your invoices when you export over a period of time and almost a drawdown. Something so that at the beginning, it is actually very affordable to the outsiders. They're looking at us saying, you're just as the same cost as whatever it is I'm buying from whatever foreign country. But the other side of it, and being this is a small business panel, is the big guys in our industry specifically are just trying to kill us every single day. They're not holding bow and arrows to us. They're just shooting bazookas at us every single day trying to knock us down. And so even in foreign markets, they don't have to play by the same tight set of rules that we have in America, which they skirt around all the time. But in those foreign markets, they can do anything dirty that they want to do. So much so that we can talk to the perfect ideal partner, and they'll say, hey, I mentioned this to said large company in America, and they told me that if I bring you in, they'll leave us and they'll go with a different distributor in our current market. So I think there's some elements there from a financial beneficiary side where people that are trying to export, and I've gone on 3 trade missions. So in the distillation community, we fall under the USDA for your all's understanding. And the USDA very frequently does these trade missions to foreign countries. In the last 24 months, I've been to Angola, Africa, I've been to Hong Kong, and I've been to Mexico City on one of these. And every single time, it's just an eye-opening experience to be able to see the markets, and we even have a product that is specific to international now. But the one presiding factor that always overtakes everything is, yes, there's access to capital. Are they going to pay their bills? And there's a lot of solutions for that that already exist, and so I don't think that's something that really needs to be focused on too much, but it is that ultimate cost. And at the end of the day, we in America, we have a higher labor cost. We have a higher input cost. We are trying to manufacture more. But if we really are going to allow small businesses to succeed at the exportation level, we have to find a way to create that initial hook so that these foreign markets recognize and see just how exceptional our products truly are. Because once they get hooked, then as their price slowly increases, they've already got their marketplace asking for it, and then we are all in and we're moving forward.
Any questions from our members to any of these panelists on this topic before we move on? Go ahead, Kimberly.
Does Kansas have, or Missouri have, a visitors authority, and what role do they play in what you do?
Yes, we have tremendous partners in the tourism arena. We have 3 primary entities that we are working with partners. One is Visit KC, which is more of a metro tourism. We also work with Kansas Department of Tourism and Missouri Department of Tourism. So I'll start with Visit KC. We are fortunate to have the CEO of our visitors Bureau, also be the CEO of our sports commission. So Kathy and Eric and I were talking about this earlier. They were the catalyst for the World Cup. So 9 years ago, worked on that bid package with a lot of support. I mean, that doesn't happen without incredible collaboration from our sports community, civic leaders, government leaders, but really kind of take ownership of that to make this opportunity possible. And then they have been out in foreign markets largely, working with tour operators way ahead of the final draw when we knew which teams would be competing here, to go out, work with tour operators, create awareness for Kansas City's brand, our strategic central location within the World Cup, which is right in the heart of it, to get them thinking about it. So when we had a final draw and people understood where their teams might be competing, we had some awareness because they weren't thinking about us before. I mean, I don't think anybody would be surprised. A lot of them, first trips to the U.S. are the coasts generally. So creating that demand and awareness. Right now, I know Kathy's probably just returned from the Netherlands and has been, again, working with tour operators there to make them aware of packages that are available, help them sell Kansas City, and then doing some more consumer facing, and they're going to Argentina next. So they have been internationally and conferences here in the U.S. going and promoting Kansas City. And then they're already working on the next bid packages for other global mega events. The other thing, and then I'll move on in the interest of time, this app that we've talked about, we were able to work with Kansas, Missouri, and Visit KC to pull in all their data, because to go out and get listings of all the businesses and attractions and lodging and houses of worship, everything a visitor would want, we should have started that years ago. We were able to use their data to pull in to create a truly regional by-state digital journey planner for visitors. So they set up the hotel tours when we have the Consul General and the embassies in, and they're really kind of working with FIFA as the interface on lodging in the hotel industry. So they play a tremendous role in all of this. And I can tell you, Kathy would say, and said it earlier this week, Kansas City's brand has already, in terms of global awareness, really jumped. She's able to get meetings and into rooms that were very difficult in the past. And it's because this community has worked across state lines, county lines, industry sectors, party lines to make this event possible.
Our last question on this topic, then we move on to workforce development. Derek Tran.
A little bit of a question to Mr. Goodson. I have a lot of manufacturers in my district, and I just want to hear from you. In your remarks, you mentioned that you're facing some challenges. I just want to compare what challenges you have with some of the manufacturers I have back in my district. Do you mind expanding a little bit on that?
No, some of our biggest challenges are regulation that comes through OSHA, DOT, EPA. We manufacture, so those are burdensome. They take a lot of time. I don't know that we're really safer for them. Those are really some of our biggest challenges, and of course the workforce development is a continuous issue for us. We're very diversified as we manufacture on one side of our company, but we also run a huge fleet of cranes and trucks to install this product that we build. And so for us, finding certified crane operators, certified welders, CDL drivers, people who can do the whole project, we have been very proactive. I could tell you, we have participated for the last several years. One time a year, we do what's called Sign Manufacturing Day, and we invite hundreds of high school age kids into our facility, and roughly 10% of our workforces come from those days of just educating them to opportunities that are in our industry. And when they get in and see the cool stuff that we do and what all's involved in the equipment, it's piqued a lot of interest. So we've been very proactive in that. It's been good. We continue to build on that, but I think we could do a better job of getting young people interested in the trades.
Chairman Williams has a question.
Well, I'm glad you brought that up because, I'm in the car business, so I have a hard time getting mechanics and technicians. In Texas, we do not have enough welders. Plumbers, welders, carpenters, technicians are what we need. We talk about our economy is great, it's getting better, but you don't have a real economy till we can close the loophole of trades. And there's several things. We have a bill, I have a bill out there, it's bipartisan, that it's requiring the state schools, for example, here it be University of Kansas, University of Missouri, Texas, whatever, to tell a young person before they enroll what it would cost to go to that school as compared to a trade school. And there's a huge difference, as you can imagine. And, you know, I've come up with this crazy idea, and people begin to think, why not? I mean, look, why couldn't the University of Missouri have a trade school and graduate plumbers, welders, and carpenters? I mean, these are the kids that are going to be the best alumni to begin with, right? They're going to go right and do a job. And we need to talk about that. We need to improve our trade schools. Our industry, the car industry, is probably much like the home industry. You're trying to create these environments for these kids. But, you know, we talk about AI, but AI is not going to take these jobs.
No.
You know, and we need them, right? And so I think it's important that we all move forward, but think about more schools creating opportunities for these kids. The military is another great, you know, I represent Fort Hood, the largest military base in America, and these young men and women are getting out, they're trained, they're ready. You don't have to tell them to come early and stay late. They're disciplined. There's opportunities there right now to get builders and this sort of thing. So it's something that we're on, it's something this committee is on, but I get it, because from a personal standpoint, the rest of us have businesses. We're living the dream too. You can't get anybody to come, and then you can't get them to stay because somebody steals them. It just goes on and on and on. Anyway, there's great opportunities out there. We're on it, and we want to hear your input as we go forward. But plumbers, welders, carpenters, graduate from the University of Missouri or TCU, and hell, Harvard could do the same thing, right? Because well, SMU's not a real school. That's my enemy at TCU. But anyway, plumbers, welders, carpenters, we get it, and we're going to be all over it.
Next question, Troy Downing.
Yeah, thank you. Montana will never host the World Cup or the Olympics, but we do have the Miles City Buck and Horse Sale, so please come if you want to see that. You know, I'm going to, just a couple of follow-ups for Mr. Rieger there. You talked about building your business with access to foreign capitals and the issues that you had there. But, you know, first of all, you know, we started this on the, you know, World Cup and the effect on small business. And I'm absolutely convinced that your business has had an impact on a community. I know that you're creating jobs there. This is obviously an opportunity, not just for customers to come in, but to educate new customers on your brand. I mean, what a great opportunity. But on that, on building a small, you know, a regional or a state business, you know, what limiting factors do you have on pushing that into a national? I mean, I understand that every state has its own set of laws on that, but how can we be responsive to somebody starting a regional business like yours or a state business like yours in helping build that American, you know, footprint?
Well, I want to start it, and just so everybody understands, and obviously you understand our industry better than all other 6 people up there, but our industry is a terrible example for how to implement and layer that onto the rest of small business, because we have so many rules and regulations within our industry and how it functions coming out of prohibition years that it makes literally no sense whatsoever, even to the point that we have investors that say, well, you should just buy shelf space at a liquor store so that you always are on there. And I say, those are called slotting fees, and that's illegal in our industry. But you can do it with potato chips. And so all of those elements that are very, very difficult. You know, what I would say to you that the biggest thing that I see a lot of times from we're staying away for the moment from an international side and staying with just a national side is it's the big guys compared to the small guys. And in our industry, so everybody knows, just a brief white paper, so we more or less have what's known as 3-tier system. So you have your manufacturers of alcohol, your breweries, your wineries, your distilleries. You have your wholesalers, which are licensed in each state. And then you have your retailers, your bars, your restaurants, your liquor stores. And it's not like you make nails. So if you make nails and Home Depot says you have the best nails, I want to carry your nails at all of my stores, they say we want to send a truck tomorrow, and in 2 weeks your nails are for sale in every single Home Depot across America. If Walmart said to me, I want to have your products in every single store, I say fantastic. I then have to go apply to every single state, get a license in that state in order to be a supplier to a distributor in that state. Then I have to find a willing supplier or a willing distributor who wants to accept my products. Then that distributor has to coordinate with Walmart saying, hey, this is a mandate and you're supposed to bring this in and this is now our pricing. And then Walmart has to agree to say, sure, yes, you're right, we should bring that in, or here's the time that we're resetting. And so it's very, very fractured. But what I will say that the biggest problem that we experience is at that distribution tier because we legally are required to go through it. That does not mean that I believe that direct-to-consumer shipping is the answer, which is what a lot of people in our industry specifically want to do, which is you just email us, say I want your bottle, and I mail it to you because there's no scalability in that. And so the real problem is that these distributors, they are so focused on their legacy brands that they have. And it goes for anything. It goes whether with its cars or something. You have a new car that comes out, and I don't know what your dealership is. My wife worked for Sewell, so I apologize, competitor, I know. Yeah, TCU, SMU, Sewell, Williams Auto. But the idea is that so often we run into roadblocks where we are, for example, with Breakthrough Beverage, which is one of the large national distributors in the country, and we're with them in the state of Missouri as well. Well, we were brought in by their national team. And so their national team sees us as a strategic brand that can really grow within their organization. But at the state level, the states are so independently regulated in their own minds that they don't care what the national team tells them. So they look at us as how much gross profit are we contributing to them. So they always would rather stick with legacy brands that are slowly on the decline because they contribute more GP today versus a brand that is rising and up and coming that in 4 or 5 years from now can become something better. And that fits the general narrative to which everything I've been saying as well, which is investing, not trading. And so if you are paying the same taxes on a 2-day trade versus a 360-day trade, that's crazy. And so it's the same thing with a neighborhood like we are in. You know, for a neighborhood like us, we can't get a payback in 3 to 5 years. It's a 20-year payback, but it's the long-term play. And we just have too many businesses that we have to deal with, we're forced to deal with, that don't have the incentives to focus on the long term. They focus on the short term. And so they would rather be transactional in the moment than invested and be more competent and better off and stronger in the future.
Back to workforce, Will, let's talk about housing. What shortages are you seeing in workforce? And we've got to talk about immigration enforcement, I think, nationwide when it comes to that.
Thank you for that. Yes, you know, we have a chronic shortage of skilled workforce across the country. At any one point in time over the last couple of years, we've been about 400,000 skilled tradesmen short of what we would need just to meet current economic demand for the built environment. You know, many of these conversations are very personal. They're emotional. It's very easy, I would say easy, but it is easier to convince a young person that there is a path for them to economic prosperity in the trades. It is the long-term emphasis our society has placed on a 4-year degree and the credential associated with it that prevents, you know, mom and dad who have been investing in their 529 plan for a lot of years only to see junior want to go work with his hands. So there's been some great modifications that the Congress and the federal government have done to expand the eligibility of 529 plans for alternative education. I know the VA has done the same thing with the GI Bill of Rights and the opportunities for separated service members to utilize their benefits, their earned benefits, to invest in entrepreneurship or apprenticeships or a retooling of their own skill sets. So there is not one magic solution to incentivize a generation of new workforce. So it is very local in conversation. At the Home Builders Association, we've got a relationship with 12 school districts representing 30 career and technical education programs within local high schools to bring our tradesmen into those schools and show those young people what opportunities exist for them. And then we host a large thing. It'll be down at Union Station this spring called Foundations for the Future. And we'll have them build playhouses and shop projects, and we'll judge them, and then we'll bring in mom and dad and do a big thing where we celebrate those young people that have contributed to the industry and can contribute to the industry for the rest of their lives. This is the fastest path that exists to entrepreneurship that exists in the American economy today, is the accumulation of transferable skills that you can take with you regardless of whether you are a W-2 employee or not. Anybody that is able to turn a wrench or climb a ladder is going to be more AI resilient in a modern economy than some of the displacement we're going to be seeing in the immediate future. So similar to Andy talking about the long-term play, that's really the long-term value proposition that we've got for young people, is that once you've got those skills, you've got them for life. What you do with them, how you apply for them, and through small business education, through the SBA, how do you monetize and ultimately make money off of your skill set? Some of the most talented electricians that I know are paycheck to paycheck, because they never learned to truly monetize and gain, the ability to get their income commensurate with their skill level. And so it comes with a level of business acumen associated with those skills that we are training here in the Kansas City Metro. The Northland Career Center through the Platte County School District is building one of the largest training facilities in the entire Midwest. And it's got support from the state of Missouri as well as many in private industry. And it will be one of the premier training facilities, not only for those in secondary school or post-secondary school, but those at different stages in their career that are looking to retrain and perhaps pivot. So this is a lifelong value proposition that we've got, and we really do have to continue talking about it to reduce that long-term historical perspective that a 4-year undergraduate education is the only way to participate in a modern economy. We know that's not true. We just need to go out and talk about it. So when it comes to immigration, Congressman Alford, is certainly a very disruptive force within the construction industry nationwide. It's thought that 1 in 3 to 1 in 4 workers participating in the construction industry are foreign born. And so we are not producing a domestic supply of labor. And if we are going to have a built environment that meets a modern demand, which is what we're seeing today, we have got to find a way to access talent regardless of where it comes from, with known quantifiable pathways for complying with the rules. So just like any business owner, if you're gonna raise my taxes, raise them, but make it permanent so I can plan for it. If there's going to be a modification in the immigration, make it clear, make it permanent, and that way people can make decisions and allow the business community to respond to it.
Very good answer. Let's get to deregulation now, our next topic. And once again, let me know if you have a question for our panelist members. One of the most common frustrations we hear about is the cost and complexity of government regulation, over-regulation. Look, we all know this is kind of bipartisan. We know there needs to be guardrails, right? You can't have willy-nilly businesses and with no regulations whatsoever. But how can we pare down some of these regulations where they're not keeping people from opening businesses or running them out of businesses? So let's talk about that. And I want to start with Eric with the Chamber. What are you hearing from businesses here in the greater Kansas City area about regulations and how it may be hampering their effort to be successful?
Thank you, Congressman, for the question. Going back to my previous comments, we're a bi-state area, and there are multiple counties, as Tracy said, and so it's not just doing business thinking about what's coming out of Washington, D.C. There's state complexity, there's city and county complexity, and so no one's suggesting at all we need to standardize how local governments regulate or not, but it's so complicated and people are just trying to open or continue a business, and you almost need some sort of expertise to work your way through. And so to the extent that your committee can collaborate, convene with your peers at the state level and the local level, it's not just a one-size-fits-all approach. It's complicated on multi-tiers, and what we hear is frustration and a need to look kind of like more holistically. Going back to education, it's like when you think about workforce development, it's not just trade institutions that need to be at the table. It's higher ed thinking about new programs, but it's K-12 as well, because when do people start thinking about what do I want to be when I grow up? It's not when they graduated high school, it's way before then. And so when we think about solving the regulation problem, what are the opportunities for your committee and other committees to be a convener to bring, just like you are today, to bring state regulators, local regulators to look for solutions that win in communities across the country?
Good deal. Jeff, let's, I know you got a lot of regulations in your business. Let's talk about what are some of the ones that are you're really kind of a thorn in your side that you feel like may not be necessary but is an encumbrance to success for your industry?
So construction industry. I can't honestly say that a lot of regulations affect me day to day, and here's why. You get into small business, and you're really not thinking about, you know, what regulation I got to comply with or something like that, like the liquor industry, like the distilling industry, and things like that, where that's such a big part of just trying to conduct business on some things. You know, my challenges are when they start dropping reporting regulations, for instance, like DOT, prevailing wage things, different things like that, where I've got to learn and I've got to report certain things back to the government or to this and that. You know, OSHA is, everybody thinks it's a big hurdle, but you're really only seeing OSHA anymore in my industry if you got a problem. So you try not to have a problem and have them around. But as you start reporting, as you add stats, things like that, that adds cost to a business because you've got to have staff to manage that stuff, to do the reporting on time and things like that. Because somebody's got to specialize in these things, and it starts taking time to do that and to report it properly. So it starts to go back and circle around to capital and investment. If you've got a business that is growing or scaling, you're doing more reporting. You're involved with more things. You need more things going on, and you know, your bandwidth with your people starts to, hit its limits on things. So, and we're not talking about actually developing the product or something like that, but that's just trying to, for me to dig a hole, it takes a whole staff in my office, believe it or not, just to go out and dig a hole. You don't just show up and tell your guys, oh, go dig this thing. It's, well, you got to call the locates in. You got to make sure that's done right. You've got to make sure the cities are involved, and you've got to pay their permitting fees. They got to let you know what's going on. You've got to, alert, a property owner. I mean, these are all things you deal with and you work with, and that's fine. But when you start compounding things with the government, asking questions about stuff and reporting things and stuff like that, it just adds a lot of staff to stuff. So, that's one of the challenges.
David, how about you in the sign business? What would you like to see eliminated or streamlined when it comes to regulations?
I think, Jeff, a lot of what Jeff's saying is right. we regulate prevailing wage jobs, take a tremendous amount of paperwork. Just keeping up with all of the reporting that we do for EPA for painting. We run paint booths. We do that. I really don't know what they do with that paperwork, but I know if I don't send it in, I get a fine. So same thing with being in compliance. DOT's become really challenging, moving trucks. There's different regulations for if you're a unified carrier or not. Our trucks are normally back in. So the DOT paperwork's become quite a challenge in keeping up with that. And again, with us, OSHA, we run a very safe program. We're very proud of that, but we deal with that. We're on a lot of big projects, and it's a lot of compliance, a lot of time taken to keep us reported properly, logs and what have you. And also a big one for us is the IRS. I mean, our company pays, myself and my company, we pay too much in taxes. It is absolutely staggering what we pay each year, and look at how that money's spent, and we'd like to see it spent better and some real relief to us, not a $2,000 on a $100,000 income. We're looking at real relief that allows us to reinvest that money in our company instead of let you guys spend it for us. So those are things that certainly concern us. And again, like I say, the local regulation is a real issue as well. For us, every community, every single community has a different sign ordinance or different sign codes. So height, regulation, size, brightness, all those things we deal with. But also the local regulation from fire departments has become extremely challenging to a lot of my customers who want to expand. We are made up, small business is our business. We work from where small companies come to us. And we hear those challenges daily. And fire code, believe it or not, has been a challenge for, not in our industry for us, but for a lot of our customers wanting to expand and going through some of those regulations, navigating through all the city code, and just to get a simple permit to remodel their storefront. So I think regulation across federal government in those big areas, and then also looking at the local level to try to free that up a little bit.
Hey, Mark, a real quick
Yes.
one that everybody can relate to that we've got to do reporting on and educate our employees. No tax on overtime. So we just got some stuff out the other day, and this is great. I mean, we love hearing this. We don't, but nobody understands how it's got to work. So, you know, we're getting letters, we're getting things, and we're trying to understand, but it's our responsibility as a business owner to educate our employees and to help them through that process. Well, it takes time and effort and money. So that's just a new one right now.
Andy.
Just real brief. So the two problems that I see in our industry, at least with regulation, are number one, a lot of times these regulators, they're just looking for government jobs. They're not actually professional. They don't actually know what they're doing. They are truly, they saw a job opening, they took it, they don't understand the industry, they go to a job site, he has to explain what is going on, and then they interpret things. For example, I had a regulator one time tell me that I got written up by the FDA because we were storing whiskey in a raw wooden container. Because that's the idea. It is the idea, yes, of course. And so, you know, that's how bad it's gotten. But, you know, I sort of set the stage always where I just always tell regulators, hey, I want you to come here and I'll invite you in if you're seeking compliance, not seeking enforcement. And that's something that I believe is a messaging tool. And so with all regulators that are told your job is to not fine as the DOT on a frequent basis, your job is to seek compliance. If they don't do it correctly, give them a warning, give them another warning, give them another warning, and then you fine when there is clear issues going on and someone is not being forthcoming about what they are doing. But those are two different mentalities of regulators, and it is the professionals that are great. Regulations do absolutely make industry and Americans safer. Regulations also create a moat and keep unserious operators from entering in.
Exactly. Let's end there. We got 4 other topics done. Maybe we need to come back and do the remaining 4, but this has been a great discussion. Let's hear it for our panelists. Let's give it up for them. Will, Andy, Jeff, David, Eric, and Tracy. And I especially want to thank our members for coming here. This has been a great experience, and we take trips together sometimes too called congressional delegation trips. They're bipartisan trips. They're not vacations. They are working sessions where we go to other parts of the country, the world actually, meet world leaders, meet with people in the economic fields in these other countries, and service members, that's right. And that's where we get to know each other, spending time. On the Hill, it is very divided, although I try to go across the aisle every time I'm on the floor and meet or talk with some Democrat that I don't really know that well. But it's been such a pleasure getting to know you better, Gil, and you, Derek, and of course, Derek and Kimberly and Troy. Good to have you here in Kansas City. I'm very proud to have worked here for so many years, and this is going to be part of our new district here for the 4th Congressional District, and I'm proud to call Kansas City home. Thank you so much. God bless you. Have a great day, and we'll see you soon. Thank you.